Hello, America. First, I have to start with an apology to my guests that I just excused. Because as I walked on stage tonight and I looked at the content, based on something that I'm going to take you through, Donald Trump's letter today, I don't know what is true. And it's weird because we all are like this, but, you know, if you're just doing political calculations, it's easy to see which side you should fall on. But if you actually care, and you actually care about the truth, this is one of the hardest few weeks I think I've had, because I don't exactly know what's going on. I think until today, I am not a guy that is somebody that is fine with the regular answer. Believe it or not, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I mean, unless there are conspiracies, and there are conspiracies, and we know it. We know it. We've been watching them unfold for the last 15, 20 years. But this Epstein thing does not make sense to me. And this might be, until I get a better handle on it, might be the last time I talk about this, because what I think is going on, that may be the only response. I'm going to present you with several theories, but I want to start with the president's letter, okay? Because this is crucial. You can't just ask what is happening. You have to ask, why is this happening? Why would the president run on Epstein, along with a bunch of other stuff? Why would his administration say, it's sitting right here on my desk, you know, we're going through it, thousands of names, blah, blah, blah. Why? And then all of a sudden say, there's nothing there. It's so poorly handled, and the president seems tone deaf, and I don't believe the president is tone deaf. I've never seen a guy with a better political gut. I've never seen a guy with a better gut, quite honestly. Look at what he's doing to the country. Look at how he's transforming the world. The guy does not suck in the gut department. So why is this happening? Let me take you to the letter. What's going on with my boys, and in some cases gals? They're going after Attorney General Pam Bondi, who's doing a fantastic job. Okay, I could say that he's maybe talking, maybe I'm one of his boys, I guess, I don't know, because I called for her resignation. We're on one team, Team MAGA, and I don't like what's happening. Okay, I agree with him on that. We have a perfect administration, the talk of the world. I believe that. And selfish people are trying to hurt it all over a guy who never dies, Jeffrey Epstein. This is where I start to go, wait a minute. You used Jeffrey Epstein as a political tool, and that's going to be very important to remember here in a minute. For years, it's Epstein over and over again. Why are we giving publicity to files written by Obama, crooked Hillary, Comey, Brennan, and a loser and criminals of the Biden administration? Wait a minute. That's new. I've never heard him say that before. Who conned the world with Russia hoax, 51 intelligence agents, laptop from hell, and more. Got it? They created the Epstein files just like they created the fake Hillary Clinton Christopher Steele dossier that they used on me. And now my so-called friends are playing right into their hands. Why didn't these radical left lunatics release the Epstein files? That's a good question. If he's in it, why wouldn't they have released it? Why? They would have just at least released that part of it. Why wouldn't they? Because he's not in it. I firmly believe he's not in it. I'm going to get to that theory here in just a second. Okay. Why wouldn't these radical left lunatics release the Epstein files? If there was anything in there that could have hurt the MAGA movement, why didn't they use it? He's right. They haven't given up on the John F. Kennedy or Martin Luther King Jr. files. I have. I'm satisfied. No matter how much success we've had securing the border, deporting criminals, fixing the economy, energy dominance, a safer world where Iran will not have nuclear weapons, it's never enough for some people. But quite frankly, I'm fine. It's enough for me. We're about to achieve more in 6 months than any administration has achieved in over 100 years. He's right. And we have so much more to do. He's right. We're saving our country and making America great again, which will continue to be our complete priority. Okay, he's right, but we do have a problem, and that is trust. And that's why this story has bothered me, because you can't truly restore America without restoring her trust. Okay. The left is imploding. He's right. Kash Patel and the FBI must be focused on investigating voter fraud, political corruption, Act Blue. Yes, the rigged and stolen election of 2020, and arresting thugs and criminals instead of spending month after month looking into nothing but the old same radical left-inspired documents on Jeffrey Epstein. Let Pam Bondi do her job. She's great. The 2020 election was rigged and stolen. They tried to do the same in 2024. That's why she's looking in as AG and much more. 1 year ago, our country was dead. Now it's the hottest country anywhere in the world. He's right. Let's keep it that way. Let's not waste time and energy on Jeffrey Epstein, somebody nobody cares about. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Half of that absolutely makes total sense to me. But what tipped me off, and look, I don't know if any of this is right. I mean, I don't know who's going to like this segment. I don't know if any of this is right. But I have a pretty good track record of seeing things and going, something's not right. And then continuing to pull at the thread. And every thread that I've pulled, I'm not satisfied with until today. Listen to what he kept saying here. He's right about how America and the job he's doing. He's right about that. But he says for years, Epstein over and over again, why are we giving publicity to files written by Obama, crooked Hillary, Comey, Brennan, and losers of crime? I've never heard him say that. I've never heard anyone say that. No one, well, except for the left, no one really discredited those files. No one. Everybody just wanted them released. I thought it was pretty universal. Now, the media, they wanted to bury it, right? The left, they wanted to bury it. But the people wanted to know. And no one said it was written by Obama, crooked Hillary, and Comey. Okay? We have to fix the economy. Why didn't these radical left lunatics release the Epstein files? If there was anything in there, it would have hurt the MAGA movement. Why didn't they use it? That's true. You know that's true. These people would use anything. They had that sitting there for 5 years and they didn't use it. Don't believe that. That is the least believable thing I've heard. We're saving our country. We have to investigate all these things. 1 year ago, our country was dead. What is it? Not looking at the same old radical left-inspired documents on Jeffrey Epstein. Radical left-inspired documents on Jeffrey Epstein. I want to just take you through the possibilities that I think could be happening here. The possibilities, possibility number one, and this is what the left is saying, and some people now on his team are saying. He's in the report. With 15-year-olds? Really? Do you actually believe that? I mean, let's be honest, 20 years ago, if, this was like, hey, he was on an island with 25-year-old models, I would be going, probably, okay? 15, 16-year-olds, that's not Donald Trump. It's not Donald Trump. I don't believe that. Do you? I say, no way that's true. Second theory, his friends, his donors, and the power GOP are in it. Okay, first of all, if the power GOP were in that, I'm not sure. If the power GOP were in that, also the power DNC would be in it, and he'd be all for destroying both of those. Okay? It makes no sense. Unless you want to say, well, he wants to use this, and I'll get to that here in a second. But let's just say He's only doing it because his friends, his donors, or the power GOP are in it. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Listen to theory 3. I don't think that's true. There's no way. Let me ask you, except for the Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh, when was the last time, and Kavanaugh is different because he didn't do anything. When have you seen anybody in the administration that actually did something wrong, that Donald Trump, when the heat got on them, he didn't just go, yeah, see, you got to take care of that. You're on your own on that, okay? He's not going to take the heat for his friends if they did something wrong. Think about that, just that. His friends or donors or the power GOP are in it. Do you think he'd flush down half of the MAGA movement for friends or power brokers? Never. Never. The man knows where his power comes from, and it's from his base. No way. Don't believe it. Now, 3 is a possibility. I don't believe it, but it's a possibility. And that is that 2 is kind of true. His friends, donors, power GOP. And he's using the information. For instance, let's say Jeffrey Epstein was a Mossad agent. I could see Donald Trump, who does not want regime change in Iran, thinking that would be bad for the country and the world. Bibi, Benny, can I call you that? Your boy here was a Mossad agent. Now, yes, the CIA was involved, so it's going to be bad for both of us, but probably worse for you. So I'm going to keep this under wraps, but what you're going to do is not have regime change in Iran. If the president saw something that he felt was accomplished that would be very, very good by saying, I'm going to sit on that, I think he might do it. I think he might do it. But I don't think that's what happened. I don't. Because of today's letter. Okay? I'm going to get to that now. The 4th theory is what the president is trying to say, there's nothing here. Now, this one I can believe if it's presented this way. It's had 1,000 fingerprints on it. The chain of custody is ridiculous. We don't know what's real and what's not. It has been sitting around desks and in the hands of lefties, righties, power brokers, people who are guilty, people who are innocent. We don't know the chain of custody of this thing. We can't prove anything. Thus, there's nothing in there. There's nothing we can prove. Move on. That I could believe. That one I could believe. But it doesn't explain today's letter. Laura Trump said something earlier this week. She said, I just want to tell you there's more information that's going to come out. Okay, that's when I thought, okay, idea number 4, that's true. There's nothing there because it's got 1,000 fingerprints on it, and there's nothing you can prove because I don't believe 1, 2, or 3. I don't. Doesn't make sense to me. And then he came out with this. Now, it could be that he is so frustrated because the guy has accomplished miracles in 6 months. The guy should have yet another Nobel Prize, and this one earned. He should have that from some of the stuff that he's done. He's accomplished amazing things. And I could see myself really tired, really burned out, working 24 hours a day, flying all over the world. Could you keep his schedule? Like, I'm not trying to make excuses for him. I just want to present a fair look. Could you keep his schedule? I know if I have a schedule half that way, I get testy. So that could explain this. It could explain him going, can you knock it off? Look what we're doing. There's nothing there. That works. But this bothers me. All of this part We're one team, MAGA, talk of the world. Selfish people are trying to hurt it over a guy who never dies. Why are we giving? Okay, it's Epstein over and over again. That theory works. To me, what I just said to you, okay, he's tired. He's grumpy. He wants people to pay attention to the things that are important because there's nothing in it. Theory number 4. Until you get here, why are we giving publicity to files written by Obama, crooked Hillary, Comey, Brennan, and the losers and criminals, the Biden administration, who conned the world with the Russia, 51 intelligence agent, the laptop from hell, and more? They created the Epstein files, just like they created the fake Hillary Clinton Steele dossier that they used on me, and now my so-called friends are playing right into their hand. The next line is the key. If there was something in there, why didn't they use it against me before? They could have easily done it and controlled exactly how it was done, could have tubed the last election that fast. That fast. Can I give you theory 5? He is suddenly, miraculously in the file. Just like he, had that link with his bank and the Russian bank, or he was on camera in Russia with hookers, or just like he was, in the Steele dossier, doing all those things, just like he was bribing Ukraine, just like he was starting a war, all of the things that they have said, just like he was falsifying documents to get rich, in business, just like he was in Bergdorf Goodman raping a woman. Come on. Now, all of those things were said about him. And who said them? The radical left. And written in many cases by Obama, Hillary, Comey, Brennan, the loser criminal, the Biden administration. Let me take you back to theory 4. There's nothing there. Why is there nothing there? Because we don't know the chain of custody. Fingerprints all over it, right? Fingerprints everywhere. How do we know what's true, what's not true? That's theory 4. Theory 5 is these sons of bitches. They knew I was campaigning. One of my campaign promises was to release the files. Somebody went in, the same people went in, and made all of this stuff point to me as if I'm some kingpin in it. Why is it the left never wanted this released until he said, I'm not going to release it? Why is Congress, the Democrats in Congress, all of a sudden saying, you've got to release this? You've got to release this. This is impeachable if he doesn't release it. Really? More in a minute. There comes a time in your life, a point in your life, goes from being something, pain is just something irritating to something you have to deal with every single day. Maybe it starts small, tweak in your back, sore knee, little stiffness in the morning. At first, you brush it off. These things happen. I'm just getting older or whatever, Over time, that pain starts to make decisions for you. It changes how you move, how you sleep, what you say, and yes, what you have to start saying no to. And it steals minutes, moments, precious moments from your life, moments you can't get back. Relief Factor is designed to help take those moments back with you. It's a 100% drug-free solution specifically formulated to fight the inflammation that's causing your pain. And for thousands and thousands of people, it has helped reduce or even eliminate the daily struggles so they can get back to living the life they want, not the life their pain dictates. Try it. Pain may have changed your life, but it doesn't have to define it. Give their 3-week quick start a try for only $19.95. Visit relieffactor.com or call 800-4-RELIEF. That's 800-4-RELIEF. I want to take you through these again, and I just want you to ask yourself these questions. Your theory He's in the report with 15-year-olds. He was part of this. Okay. You have to ask this question. Why didn't the left use any of that when they had complete control of the dossier, when they had complete control of the DOJ? They wanted to put him in jail. Why wouldn't they have used it already? Well, because it would have exposed them. Not if they had complete control. No. They could have just used parts of it. That doesn't make sense to me. 2, his friends, donors, and power, GOP. Okay. I've never seen him defend a friend that has gone awry and is hurting the administration. He's the president. He shouldn't take on, extra water unless that person, like Kavanaugh, is wrongly accused, where he does stand for them. His friends, his donors, his power, GOP. What good is that? No, don't confuse 2 with 3. What good is any of this if he loses half his base and his support and he now is a lame duck? What good is any of that? That doesn't make sense. 2 is true, but he's using the information to blackmail, in a positive way. You're going to do what I need you to do. He's got it on the DNC and everything else. I don't believe that because I think he would rather take down the institutions than use it as blackmail, unless, like I said, it was a deal with Israel to do something where he thinks would get us into World War III. Then I would buy that. 4, there is nothing there. Doesn't mean there was never anything there. It means we don't have anything actionable at all. But this one doesn't work by itself because of the way it's been handled. And I'd love to hear, tomorrow I'm going to open up the phones, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to talk about this again. He suddenly is in it. Suddenly. Just like he was, in it with Russia. I have a weird job. A really weird job. And it is sometimes a blessing and a curse. Sometimes I get credit for things I never did, and I also get blamed for things I had nothing to do with. I looked at the Today script, which we didn't use any of it. I looked at today's script, which we have been laboring over for 2 or 3 days, and we had guests. And I said, I don't know if I believe any of that anymore because of this letter that came out. And everybody looked at me and said, so this isn't going to make you more popular with the audience. And I said, nope. And they looked at it, this isn't going to make you more popular with the president. Nope. But that's not my job. I'm of no use to you if I say things just because I want to get in with the president. I'm of no use to you if I'm saying things because I think you want to hear it. How many times have I damn near tubed my career because I will tell you stuff that you don't want to hear? I've never had a president like me. This president doesn't really like me. I mean, he tolerates me. He's kind to me, but let me give you an example. I was walking out of the White House, and he was standing at the railing, and we were walking out, and I said, thank you, Mr. President. And my producer, Ricky, said, and don't worry, he's going to say nice things about you tomorrow. And he laughed, and he said, that's right, but don't worry, if he doesn't, I'll just say he's a loser that's failing. And he laughed. I laughed. But we both knew that was true, okay? He doesn't have friends, really, at least I don't think in my position, or at least me, okay? He tolerates me. I can't even say this because he has argued with me over tariffs, which I'm this close to saying, tomorrow I have a segment on tariffs. Wait until you hear the latest on tariffs. They're not causing inflation. How? How is this? How? But I've had arguments with him on tariffs, and he does tolerate me. So I don't know. Maybe he does. I don't know. I don't care. All I care about is being able to sleep at night, and the only relationship beyond my family that matters to me is my relationship with you. As a recovering alcoholic, I remember one night I was on my knees, and I was living in this horrible apartment complex where only divorced men lived, and I was completely broke, and more than that, I didn't have a friend that believed a word I said. And they shouldn't have, because I lied. Alcoholics are very good liars. And I had lied and lied and lied my whole term of alcoholism. And I prayed that night and said, Lord, I don't want anything back. I don't want fame. I don't want fortune. I don't want any of it back. Only thing I want is my name. I want to be able to look somebody in the eye and say, this is what I believe. And they'll believe me because I've proven it over and over again. It's been the hardest thing about this job because as the left smears me, they say things that I didn't say, take them out of context, and make you believe things that is not true about me. But for the people who have been watching and listening to me for years, they know the truth. And I will not violate your trust. That's why I'm telling you this tonight. Consequences be damned. I actually hope number 4 is true. Because number 5 means Pam Bondi and the FBI damn well better be really good at their job. Now, another scandal that needs to be cleaned, and this one is a house cleaning. We do that next. So all this month, we celebrate the birth of our nation and remember the heroes who fought for our freedoms. But did you know some Americans today still don't have the freedom of life and liberty? Tragically, every day, thousands of unborn babies, their very lives are taken because of preborn. But we can rescue them. Preborn's network of clinics provides free ultrasounds with women in unplanned pregnancies, and not only do they save lives, but they love and care for the women as well. That's the most important thing. You're saving 2 lives. If we uphold the truths of our Constitution and above all the truth of God, we must acknowledge that babies in their mother's wombs are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and that cannot and should not ever be taken. And that includes life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But will you stand with me? Will you stand with preborn? 1 ultrasound is just $28, or 5 ultrasounds are $140. To donate, just dial pound 250, say the keyword baby. That's pound 250, keyword baby, or donate securely at preborn.com/Glenn. That's preborn.com/Glenn, sponsored by Preborn. Trust is what we're all after, isn't it? It's at the core of everything we're concerned about regarding Jeffrey Epstein. I want to go back to the president's Truth Social post. Actually, this wasn't today's, this was a couple of days ago, but he said the same things today. It's the heart of many of the things we need closure on. The Russia hoax, the 51 intelligence agencies that lied about Hunter's laptop, the laptop in general, all of the other scandals. Well, there is a really interesting development going on right now that I don't think enough people are actually talking about. But John Solomon recently wrote in his Just the News, he revealed a quiet FBI investigation, which is an all-encompassing grand conspiracy probe that might cover many, if not all of these questions that have been left open for years. Now, we have still seen relatively nothing on things like Russiagate, election interference, and the whole list of things that, I think all of us would like to see, people face justice over. And until we do, trust is a forgotten legacy of what once was a great idea called the United States of America. Without trust, we have nothing. But Solomon goes further. He's actually identified the actual evidence that we can demand from our government. we can finally get closure on this and possibly see justice if these two batches of evidence are finally declassified and the president is the one to do it. The first is a classified annex from the Inspector General's probe into Hillary Clinton's email server. It is believed to show credible information about possible wrongdoing that was intentionally ignored by the FBI. The second batch was also classified, this time from the Durham report. It was dubbed the Clinton Plan intelligence, and it could possibly reveal serious crimes involved in Russiagate. Now, shining the light on just those two alone would go miles towards restoring trust with the American people. Now, we need all the details. We need to be informed at every step of the way, but we also need the names of the people involved. Now, think about this. We still don't have full explanations for things like the infamous Susan Wright email. Remember that one? The email that she sent to herself on Trump's first inauguration day. She had it out the door one last time, and it read, quote, President Obama began the conversation by stressing his continued commitment to ensuring that every aspect of this issue is handled by intelligence and law enforcement communities by the book. The president stressed that he's not about asking, initiating, or instructing anything from law enforcement perspective. He reiterated that our own law enforcement team needs to proceed as normally it would be by the book. Now, why would you send that to yourself unless you know that your intelligence and law enforcement communities may not actually be operating by the book? And who were the heads of the communities at the time? These two, James Comey and John Brennan. Comey is the obvious one, and he's been around mostly because he himself won't allow his name to disappear from the news cycle. But Brennan is a little bit different. And as I looked into Brennan and remembered everything he's been a part of as the head of the CIA, it reminded me of an old school Bond villain. I mean, he is the bad guy that always gives away the evil plot that he's up to, gets caught in his dastardly schemes, and then slips away at the last moment every time. Because we know the sequel is coming. Brennan is the sequel master. He could be a major player identified in the FBI's grand conspiracy probe, and a quick look into everything that he's been a part of recently shows just how much of a Bond villain he really is. But let's bypass the little inconvenient fact that he once liked to vote for communists. Wait, did I just say that? The mere fact that we're bypassing that simple detail, and then somehow he became the head of the CIA, that says something in and of itself, doesn't it? But a quick trip through John Brennan's history reads like a dossier for members of the deep state, possibly even the direct head of the deep state. In Bond terms, Brennan would be the guy sitting in the ornate chair petting the white cat. His name recently came up after the CIA produced their Tradecraft review of the CIA's 2016 assessment for Obama, where they ID'd Russia as interfering in the election for Donald Trump. I say his name popped up, but to be clear, his name was mentioned 12 times in an 8-page document. The biggest apparent accusation is that Brennan, even though he testified to Congress that he discredited the Steele dossier, and said it wasn't used as a basis for their assessment, did in fact include this crap, this Clinton-funded campaign smear in the ICA for Obama. In fact, it was allegedly Brennan himself that pushed the dossier to be included. The goal seems clear: to include Clinton's lies directly into official intelligence circles, the president's office, and then ultimately leak it to the media. Now, if you're ever curious how the deep state operates, I'd call this Exhibit A. Brennan has never seen justice for this, and we have been left with more questions than answers and diminished trust in our institutions. But we're just getting started. Remember, he's a Bond villain with a contract for multiple sequels. Brennan was also at the center of Obama's drone kill list. That list included American citizens. He was also involved with the CIA's torture program. Then he was involved in spying on the U.S. Senate, something he denied, then later apologized for. Zero justice received. And then when he wrote a book, he was like, we didn't do any of that. Wait a minute, what? Brennan was also the biggest name on the infamous statement signed by the 51 intelligence officials, claiming that the Hunter Biden laptop was fake and a product of the Russian disinformation. This is the perfect example that shows that even when deep state officials have office, they still operate behind the scenes. John Brennan to this day can be seen on cable news spreading bullcrap to the American people and zero justice received. But perhaps the FBI's new grand conspiracy probe can finally begin to put this to rest. The soul of this country needs answers, just as with the Epstein case, in order to restore trust. We need a full, transparent, and public attempt at justice. By the way, you remember that statute of limitations has already run out on Clinton and everything else, and on Brennan in a couple of weeks. Oh, unless it's part of a grand conspiracy investigation. Then you can go back and get them all. Back in a minute.
I keep thinking, okay, this is the authoritarian playbook. We've seen this play out so many times. And unfortunately, I think we're seeing it play out. And a number of academics and writers have pointed out, Carl Schmitt, who was a German jurist, political philosopher and writer in the 1930s, his thesis, which Nazi Germany basically took up, was don't worry about doing something that is ethical or principled or good or right. Do whatever you can to win, vanquish your adversaries, vanquish your enemies. And unfortunately, we have seen that happening overseas. We've seen it in Viktor Orban in Hungary. We've seen it with Vladimir Putin. We see it in China, other places. We see it also in terms of, some of the foreign policies that are being implemented, including, in the Middle East right now. So I really am very worried that what we're seeing now in this chapter of American history is a sad deterioration of, I think, the respect for the rule of law and for our system of government. And if a president of the United States is willing to weaponize intelligence and justice and law enforcement investigators, and the people who head up these departments and agencies are willing to bow to it, we really are in deep, deep trouble, which was why I think so many people are worried about the direction this country is taking.
I'm not strong enough, man. Ow, that just made my head hurt. That was John Brennan recently on MSNBC. He just said, let me restate, if the president of the United States is willing to weaponize intelligence and justice, we really are in deep, deep trouble. But isn't that exactly what you were doing against President Donald Trump? Well, yeah, but can you prove that? I don't know. One man who worked for him, Bryan Dean Wright is with us now. He is a former CIA operations officer. He was there when Brennan took over as director. You check out his daily news podcast, The Wright Report. Bryan, thank you very much for joining me. You worked with him. What was he like?
Well, let's just start. I agree with you. That video makes me want to explode. He was not a good man. And I will tell you, I briefed him on an operation, a covert action operation, where there were basically one of two choices. We were going to sabotage something. And that thing was either going to blow up in a foreign country and maybe thousands to tens of thousands of people could die there, or that thing was going to blow up in the United States and tens of millions of us would die. So that was the op. And we all knew, we suspected that he'd be like, well, of course, if I only have two choices, which if this thing was going to fly and try to destroy somebody, was going to either kill us or them, let's kill the other people and not Americans. That was the op. And he turned it down. He would rather that millions of Americans, tens of millions of Americans die than a few thousands of foreigners. When we left that room, all of us looked at each other like, what kind of guy is this? What kind of guy would prefer that his own people die? That's what he chose. So I knew in that moment, and this was, 10 plus years ago now, this man was not a good man. He was not America first. He was not somebody who really loved his country. So based on that, I knew he was a rotten egg. And that's only been proven to be true over time.
So did he push ideology? Was he, what drives him?
Yeah, he's a party guy. I mean, obviously, this goes back many decades to being a radical leftist, flirting with and engaging with Marxism and communism. He's joked about it over the years. I don't know why he was still allowed in the intel community to either enter it or stay, but this guy is a partisan, and he knows exactly who he is and what he proposes that this country should be. It's a radical leftist agenda. That is what he is all about.
How does he keep getting away with it? I mean, I've never seen anybody quite so slippery. No matter what he does,
he's got protection. Look, I mean, the entire Trump-Russia hysteria was ultimately cooked up by Hillary Clinton and Obama. When he did this investigation, this what's called an ICA, an Intel Community Assessment, that Trump was basically assisted by Putin to get elected. He didn't do that because the intel or the facts mandated that, or that was true. He did it because Obama and Hillary Clinton encouraged him to do that to destroy Trump, certainly after he won the presidency. So this guy's a party guy, and he gets protected by the party. That's why he's slick.
So do you think he is the leader of the deep state or just a member of the deep state?
Well, the distinction there gets a little bit fuzzy, but he certainly has a lot of people still at the CIA today and the Office of Director of National Intelligence, where Tulsi Gabbard is at. A lot of his sycophants, the people who were fellow party members, partisans, he helped promote them. In fact, the people who wrote some of the documents that have targeted Trump, they're still there. So that's why this still matters. That's why he still matters. And so I think that he is a leader in that sense.
Is he likable? I mean, I don't understand. Here's what I don't get. He's been on media show after media show after media show. He's been totally discredited by now. I mean, the Hunter Biden laptop, that's enough. Totally discredited, and yet they still have him on. I would not be able to talk to somebody who had lied to me like that. Is he a likable guy? Is he a believable guy in person?
I would say he presents well. He's polished. So over time, he's become very, very good at spin. He's excellent at that. So in a meeting, he might come across as polished, but if you push him on operations or ultimate decisions, like I was telling you about the covert action operation, he ultimately chooses to weaken America. That's who he is. But he certainly can spin a nice tale.
What happens if, I don't know if you heard me talking about the grand conspiracy theory that, or investigation that they're doing at the FBI, which goes back and will scoop him up for sure if that does happen. You think that's provable? Do you think there's enough out there to get him?
Well, I'll tell you what he told Congress behind closed doors is, as you no doubt know, and your audience is aware, he told Congress that he never involved that Steele dossier in that ICA, the Intel Community Assessment. So if in fact he did that, that is a potential legal hook. I think that there could be enough there. It's going to be up to the Department of Justice to be able to prove that. But that's the real challenge. I will tell you, he's a very slick guy, so he knows his weaknesses, kind of like Comey, right? He knows how far he can go to avoid prosecution, or there's enough smoke and fire there that he knows he'd get in trouble, but he'll avoid ultimate prosecution. So yeah, Brennan is a pretty slick guy in that same Comey-like way, that they're not dumb guys, but that's what the deep state does. Yeah, they think that they know what's best for the country, and they're going to act on that with their powers and then find a way to weasel out of it.
He seems very, very humble, when he's on TV. In that last clip, he seems like very reasonable. But when you remember, he was the guy pushing for the torture. He was the guy that was, for extradition to torture sites in other countries, everything I'm against. And yet he's embraced by the left. How?
Well, I'll tell you, so I was a Democrat for 20 years, believe it or not. I left the party when it became extra bonkers. Look, unfortunately, he's one of those guys who is a chameleon. He has flexed himself or pretzeled himself into being a new left darling. But at the end of the day, it's the hypocrisy that over the past 15, 20 years, the party, Democrats have gone from a party who believe in rule of law, one could argue, or let's say the border, for example, but they've completely reversed course. And they're accepting of that hypocrisy. The base doesn't care. The leadership doesn't care. MSNBC doesn't care. I mean, again, remember when Rachel Maddow asked, I believe it was Chuck Schumer, about the intel community getting involved in the 2016 campaign, and Chuck Schumer said, "Boy, Trump is silly to push back because they have 6 ways from Sunday to get back at you." Well, wait a minute. John Brennan was part of that cabal, and so was Comey. And so when you really stop and think about that, that's been about 10 years since Schumer admitted that this republic really behind the scenes is controlled by the intel community, by Comey and Clapper and Brennan and the rest. Have we really wrestled with what that means? Have we really come to terms with what it means when these people control the fate of the nation? I still can't believe it's been 10 years when Schumer acknowledges that's true. So, look, we live in a very, very, I think, alarming time. I guess if there's nothing else, I'll agree with Brennan on that. But he's the problem. He's the issue. He is why this nation will collapse. Men like him who think that they know what's best for the nation and they're going to do what they want.
I will tell you, about 6 or 7 years ago, I had members of the House, members of the Senate come and walk me outside and whisper in my ear, they're watching and listening to everything we're doing in here. And they were terrified. They were really terrified. Brennan said, no, that's ridiculous. We didn't do it. And then it was proven that they did do it. He apologized and then wrote a book and said, no, we didn't do any of that. They did do that, did they not?
Yes, and this is just like a guy like Comey after he was booted. Where did he go? He went to the College of William and Mary and he taught ethics. What? Yes, that happened. So this is this system of this rot that extends from the intel community, DC, down to academia. They all protect each other, and I think that that's what you're highlighting. What those House members and Senate members told you is correct. They have a lot of power. They know how to execute it, and they know how to push people out of the way to maintain their power. This republic is not the one that we all thought it was. There are a lot of puppeteers, and I think that President Trump has lived through that. Last 10 years, that the man loves the country. And he has discovered that there is this cabal of people. It's not a conspiracy. It's real. It's evident. And it's important to arrest these people.
I think everybody agrees with that. Most people agree with that, at least on our side. But they wonder if there's going to be justice. Do you believe that we're ever going to see perp walks or people behind bars?
If we don't, what's the inescapable conclusion? If enough of our elites avoid punishment, at what point does the nation stop functioning? At what point do the people rise up? I work abroad, or I've worked abroad in a lot of different places. And when the rule of law fundamentally stops working in a country, you have mob justice, you have vigilante justice. That's where this goes. So sure, it may be that one or two or many of them escape justice, but ultimately this country will not survive that because people will rise up. And that is inescapable. That is not some call for insurrection. That's how history works. So
thank you for your service, Bryan. I appreciate it. God bless you. Thanks for coming on. He's right, and that is something we talked about on radio today, and a little bit more tomorrow, how the left is rising up and calling for blood. But until then, from Dallas, good night, America.